I would believe that would be our testimony. He has been faithful. It was the beginning of fall of last year when I started the book of Joshua. And I remember teaching us this little 10-finger thing about prepare, do your best, and let God do the rest. Prepare, do your best, and let God do the rest. There is a song about the Waymaker. My message has to do more with God being the difference maker in our lives. The difference maker. And as most weeks, I prepare the bulletin and the outline of the bulletin before I finish the message, and I often come to a point where, oh, wait a minute, I've got to preach this message before I can start preaching this message because it's been a while. And so when I realized it's been a year since we went through the series of the first part of Joshua, and I wanted to come back and finish that. So for those who need to fill in the blank, let me just start by letting you fill in the blank. This is next Sunday's message, but if you want to fill in the blank, you can put in these four things, and then I'll begin our time together. It's a new beginning, and I typed an L, and it should have been a B. It's a new beginning, a new plan, underneath the message outline, a new beginning, a new plan, a new victory, and a new commitment. A new commitment. I went back to the book of Exodus, chapter 3, and I began to read the conversation that God has with Moses. Now, he's been preparing Moses for this job throughout most of his young life. He's preparing him to be a soldier. And he's been under the tutelage of Moses. And we know a great deal about that story, but this is where God comes to Moses and chooses Moses to go on God's behalf to the Pharaoh, the most powerful man on earth, because he has seen what's been going on. And he and Moses has a conversation. God actually does most of the speaking, but there comes a point in time when Moses needs a point of clarification. And for us to get the picture about our God, I thought for today, before we go back into Joshua, I just wanted us to remind us a bit about our God, our Heavenly Father, and that He is both present 24/7. Just listen to the conversation that He has with Moses. And I'll make comments as we go along. Starting with verse 6, chapter 3 of Exodus. He said also, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Then Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. When I just sat there for a moment, I just said, well, he was there with this one, this one, this one, and this one. Just start by saying our God is always present. We know that little statement, He's not the God of yesterday or the gods that will be. He is the I am, and He is always present. He is always present. And that gives a sense of just a sense of security and peace when you realize that He's always present. He's always present. In verse 7, and the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt and have given heed to their cries because of their taskmasters. For I am aware of their sufferings. not only is always present, but he is always aware. He's always aware. I might need water here in a minute. I'm hanging in here. I'm always aware. He is always aware. He's always in the present. He knows the who, the what, the when, the where. He knows the how much. He knows the central issues. He knows the players that are involved, etc., etc., etc. He's always present and he's always aware. Always. He's always there. Hebrews 4:13 says, nothing. That kind of covers everything, doesn't it? Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Everything is uncovered and exposed before the eyes of Him, to whom we must give an account. I'm sorry, I should have brought it up here with me. I thought I could make it too. Thank you. He is always present. He's always aware. And we'll continue to listen and look as He has something to say to us. So I have come down to deliver them from the power of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from the land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanite and the Hittite. And you know how I say that? The Badusites, that's what I call them. I can't always say their names correctly, so I just call them the Badusites. I can say that. And it comes to the land of all these Badusites. And now, behold, the cry of the sons of Israel to me. When you listen to him talk to Moses, you hear the calmness in his voice. He's not frightful. He's not apprehensive. He's not in a panic mode. He's aware. He's there in the present. And he's thinking about their future and what he's promised them. And he's talking about this wonderful land. Now, he's not oblivious that there's not some Badusites in the land. He knows the situation. Because he's also in their present, and he's aware of their situation of all the Badusites. And he's dealing with them too. He's dealing in their present, and judgment is coming. I've often sat and talked with young people, and we've been in conversations along the way, and how he just wiped them out. He had Joshua. He just wiped them all out. And we would talk about that, and I would say, but you have to remember that though the Israelites are carrying the story of salvation, there are people in the world at their time, and God is in their present, and He is in their situations, and He's aware of what's going on in their lives, and He's dealing with them as well as He deals with us in the discipline of our life. And He is bringing judgment on them as He will on us as His children. And so here it comes, is that their times have been going on. They have worshiped idols. They become pagans. They've turned away from what was right, because we know in the heart of every person created, they know what's right, don't we? The Scripture teaches us that. For we know what's right in our heart. At that point in time, we know. And so here he is, and he says, I've seen what's going on. And he's talking about the best. Pause for a moment. When God is talking and thinking about you, when I see Brandon out there with that big hat on, do you know that my Heavenly Father is thinking about the best for him? When Kathy's teaching those little children in that room, and there's she might want to scratch the wall that day, or somebody, he is there present. He is aware. He's having the best for her. When Josie sees the doctor and has surgery, he will be present. He's aware. He has her best in his heart, realizing the situation around. He understands that. And now he comes to verse 9 and he says, "And now, behold, the cry of the sons of Israel has come to me. Furthermore, I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them." And so he's going to deal with the situation. It's time to do this. It's time. They had been under Joseph's care in Egypt. He has left and gone to his reward. A new Pharaoh come up that didn't remember the relationship that Joseph had had with the Pharaohs, and how the Jewish people had so been grateful and been under his care, and now the taskmasters have turned on them, and only because of the blessings of the midwives have they just flourished. They flourished, and here they are. And now they've been under a heavy taskmaster for quite a while. God was present. He was aware. He was preparing. And now it's come time, because he says, "I have heard their cry." I've heard their cry. And Moses says, "Okay, God, but who shall I tell the people of Israel who's sending me here? Who shall I say?" And God says, "Therefore come now, and I will send you to Pharaoh so that you may bring my people." Wait just a second. Don't just fly by that. My peeps. They're my peeps. As we sat here this morning, I'm his people. Jack's his people. Nikki's his people. Rick is his people. Yeah. Jack's his people. It's just not some people. It's not those people. It's my people. They're my people. And he loves his people. Do you remember when you became his people? Not his creation. We're all his creation. But do you remember when you become a new creation and your name was written on that book of life and you become his people? I'm his people. He says, "I've heard them. I understand where they are. And I've come to do something about it." And he just says, God says to Moses, "I am who I am." And he says this to the people of Israel. "I am has sent me to you." I want to spend a few moments there. The word for God to the Israelites in those early days was Yahweh. In fact, there were times when they wouldn't even say his name. It was so holy. And when he says, "I am that I am," we can think of all these different I ams that Jesus spoke about himself. What God said, and I looked up some of them, and I wrote them, and he said to them in Revelations, at the end of the book, he says, "It is done. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. I am the good shepherd." The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Matthew 28:20 says, "Teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." 15:1, John, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser." John 11:25 says, Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live." John 8:12, "And Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. John 6:35, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And last but not least, say it with me, John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. When you look at those and when you think about I am who I am, the beauty of that is that he is telling you and his people, and he's telling me, I will be whatever I need to be to provide for you and to protect you. I will be at that moment in time in your life whatever needs to be as you trust and obey me to transform you into the image of my Son. Whatever I need to be within the character of my holiness, I will be to you. Whatever he needs at this moment, whatever I need, whatever Patty needs, whatever Susie needs, within his will, as we were talking about our prayer life, thy will be done. When we are seeking his will, he will be whatever it needs to be in your life and my life to transform me into his likeness and to fulfill his will in my life. Whatever he needs to be. Where it's the bread of life, where it's water, where it's protection, whatever he needs to be in that teenager's life, in school, at that moment, when he has trusted him for that day and that moment, and he wants to be a godly young man or a godly young woman, and he or she has said, Lord, my will be done, your will be done today. I want to walk wisely before you. God is present in that situation. He is aware of the situations. And he has promised that he will be whatever needs to happen in that heart and life of that person, you and me. He's aware of the decisions we've made without choosing his will, and we're dealing in those consequences. But he is also, as we look at it here, he is the God of second chances. He's the God of aren't you glad? He's not into easy believism, where we say, well, I'll go ahead and sin and I'll just seek forgiveness. That's not the issue. But he's a God of grace and mercy. He's a God of love, and he disciplines us. But he is the great I am, and what that means to us, and I wrote it here, the Father will be whatever is necessary within his character to provide whatever is necessary to transform his people into the image of his Son, if we only trust and obey. And what does he tell Joshua in that passage that Susie read for us? Only be strong and... That's what he's telling Moses. He chose Moses, who wasn't a great speaker. He gave him Aaron. He didn't go and come down in front of the Pharaoh and God said, I'm the I am that I am. He chose to work in his creation to deal in situations. He wanted to prove to those people that they were his people and that he could provide whatever they needed, whenever they needed it. He would be there as they would follow him. Just trust and obey. And that's the deal. It's really hard at times to trust and obey. He's been faithful, even when I did not believe, the song says. So he says, so when we transfer over to Joshua, chapter 1. Moses now left the scene. Moses was obedient. Joshua had learned 3 really important points: living and walking and being raised under the tutelage of Moses and his family. First of all, through that times when he was just a little boy at the Passover, his life was spared because the blood the post. He knew the stories. He understood as they grew up why they celebrated Passover. He understood that that was an incredible. He heard the stories, and he even probably, I don't know if he could remember them all, but he knew the stories about the plagues that God had given the Pharaoh and the people. And God had told Moses, listen, he's not going to let you go, but be strong, be courageous, stay with me. Joshua grows up in that atmosphere. He has gone in and seen the Jebusites in this land of milk and honey. And he comes back with 12 people, and 2 of them, him and Caleb. You remember, they said exactly what God said. They said, yes, there's Jebusites there, but it's a land that's beautiful with milk and honey. It's a great land that God had given us. Wait just a moment, let me tell you. He remembered, I'm the God of Abraham, and he had promised Abraham. He had seen the Red Sea pulled back. He had seen them walk through. He had turned around and saw God do this incredible miracle of just taking care of all of Pharaoh's army. He had come to realize that God was a God of incredible, mighty power. He had seen them at Marah, where he had taken bitter water, and God had changed it into water to meet their thirst. Let me ask you a question. Is your God almighty? Is he almighty? Joshua, when God comes and taps him on the shoulder, he said, my servant Moses is now gone. He's fulfilled his commission, and I come to you. He's passing on the principle. Wait a minute. This is not new to God. He was present with Moses. He was present with Joshua in his life when he wasn't the leader. He was aware of all the circumstances. And Joshua had seen this. He is aware of the mighty power of God. There was nothing that he couldn't do. And now he's standing at the Jordan River. Have you ever been to a point where you've been working on a project and you've been putting sweat and tears into it and money into it, and you've been preparing where it's a class? I mean, all of a sudden, there it is in front of you. There it is. You've done your part, but it's going to take God's mighty power to do it. And he's promised. You've been faithful. He's been faithful. And there he is at the Jordan River with these people. The children whose parents didn't get to the promised land because they didn't trust and obey. And there he is at the Jordan River. The first thing he learned in his days of growing is that God can do anything to fulfill his will in my life if I'm obedient. Joshua had prepared. He knew about soldiering. That was his skill. He had been preparing all along for that moment in time. The second thing that he learned that God keeps his promises. He knew about, I was with Abraham, God tells him, as I was with Abraham, I was the God of Isaac, I was the God of Jacob, and I wish you'd put in, and I was the God of Joseph when he was going through all of those things, when he was in jail, and all those guys were promising to talk to the guy, to the master, and say, hey, listen, I'm innocent, I'm not guilty, can you help me get out? Oh, we'll do it, we'll talk to the guy. And then they didn't come through. God was present. God understood. He understood when that young kid was been thrown in the pit and he got sold. Life's not always fair. It's about trusting and obeying when things don't seem right. Help me, Lord, to remember that. We can do everything the right way and seem like it's not fair. Isn't that right? And yet he was aware of that. But at the right time, Joseph, with the skill that God had given him, saved the people. Joshua knew about that. And he says, Joshua, I'm just asking you. I'm going to be with you. I was with them, and you saw the promises. And I will be with you. Wait a minute. Had he gone across the Jordan River yet? Still standing there, wasn't he? But he has the history that God is able. He had these promises that God will be with him. But he still had to put his foot in the river. He believed those promises. Let me ask you a question. I think it was in your Sunday school lesson this morning. What is one or two promises that you really lean on when things are tough? I will never leave you nor forsake you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Lo, I'll be with you till the end of the earth. Greater is he that's in me than the situation that I'm in. He believed in his power. He trusted in his promises. And it come to the last one is, he was at peace because he knew of his presence. I will be with you. Not in front of you, not behind you. I will be with you. The presence, you know that the presence of the Lord is in your life in the situations, it can provide such a sense of presence and peace that can't be found anywhere else. What did he tell you? In this world, you're going to have difficulties. In this world, it's going to be tough. But be of good courage, for the peace that I give you is not the peace of the world, but the peace that I give you is the stuff that's on the inside. It's the person of the inside that counterbalances the stuff that's going on the outside. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow. He trusted and he had learned to trust in his power, in his promises, and his presence. He is literally looking across the Jordan River and has those three things standing with him. Here's my application. We believe in this very same I am power? No. Do we believe it? Do we believe in this I am that I am, the person who is present, who is aware, of every situation in my life. I am. Do I believe in that very same power that I wrote here? Let us recommit to not just believe, but to follow. Prepare. It's not a 10-finger one. I tried to work on it, but it didn't come out. Prepare. Pray. Do our best and allow God's power to provide the rest. Prepare, pray, do our best, and allow God's power to provide the rest. Nothing is impossible with God. But you don't know, this is 2022, Pastor, and stuff has just come unglued. Nothing is impossible with our God. Second, do you believe in this same I am's promises today? Well, now we know we must be truthful that some promises were for the people of Israel when they were talking about. But there are promises that are there for you and I as well. Do we believe in those promises that the I am will provide the promise of protection, of pardon, and provision in whatever situation it is if I'm trusting and obey? Will he do that? If I'm trusting and obeying, he will provide, he will pardon. Whatever the situation calls for, he will provide that. And most of the time it's through others. Either in counsel, in provision, or extending forgiveness. Then I said, let us recommit to follow. Prepare. Pray. Do our best and make his book our GPS. Let us recommit to follow. Prepare. Pray. Do our best and make his book our GPS. What do we know about God? What do we learn about his power? What do we learn about his promises? What do we learn about his presence that's with us? What do we learn about that? God has spoken. This is his book. It's his guidebook. It's it. When I looked at that, I read that several times. I got all excited. I was sitting there and I just got excited. Man, I can't preach about Joshua 8. I got to preach about Exodus 3. I got to tell these people, the I am that I am. He's present. He's all powerful. He's got promises. We're his people. We're his peeps. It says, prepare, pray, give us our daily bread. And then last, do you believe in the same I am's presence today? Do you believe in the same I am that he is present in your life today? Do you believe that? Because if you believe that, you can follow that. I was talking with some friends this past week, and one of the prayer things Andy Stanley talks about the difference between believing and following. And I've mentioned that before, and it's just really just hung on me in a way, is that the church along the way took the belief part, because we can sell John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And that's very true, if I believe. But it's hard to sell but if you're going to follow me, you're going to have to pick up your cross daily and follow me. And that's where when we hear people say, they're just a bunch of hypocrites down there. I don't want to be a part of that church. They're just a bunch of hypocrites. They believe one thing, they say one thing, but they're out doing something else. And the thing is that we got a bunch of believers who've got 4 or 5 things that we fit in this rule, and this is what we do, and then when things crush and we're not followers, then it falls apart. We're called to be followers, and it's going to be tough. And his presence. And now he's told Moses, he was Joseph, he was with Abraham, he's with Isaac and Jacob. Now he's with Joseph. Now he's with Bill. Now he's with Josie. Now he's with Nikki. Now he's with Jack. Now he's with you. And down the ages, it's the pass it on principle. Remember what he said to Moses? Go tell them what I've told you. Isn't that right? He said, now I want you to call these elders together and tell them exactly what I told you. I'm just telling you. Pass it on. I got to close with this. Passing on. I'll find it here in just a moment. I had it. It slid up on me. I'll tell you what it was. We were coming home Friday. And I'm driving, and Patty begins to read Nikki's text. You guys got to read that, didn't you? Hey, if you have a chance to come by the ballpark and see our kids, and we know that we're busy. And I'm driving, and Patty's reading that. I just begin to cry. I said, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Our hearts found a home. They're passing it on. They're passing it on. We passed it on. Kathy, that breakfast. Pass it on. It's gone full circle. Here's Brandon, an angel. It's gone full circle. They're passing it on. It's not Jack sending that text out. It's one whose heart has found a home because we showed our heart. I think of those hours last year when you guys were decorating and doing all of that. And here they come. We had to put our foot in the water, didn't we? It's not easy. Kathy's putting her foot back in the water teaching school. It's not easy. Going to school. Going to classes. I would hate to have to go to class at my age. I'm back to looking at the front of the Bible to find where the books are. Not really. Would you stand, please? He is all powerful.
all powerful. He's working in ways we cannot even imagine. Little sign there on the corner, right next to Hitchcock's. Right there. His promises. He's aware of who we are here. He is aware of your need. Thy will be done. Is that not our prayer here? Lord, thy will be done. Thy will be done. I just want you to put your arms around you. Just do this right now. Go ahead. He's present. He's present with me. You're not alone. You're not alone out there doing your oysters. You're not alone. He's present. You're on his ocean. That belongs to him.